A merry ho, ho, ho to one and all as we get ready for our final edition of the Goon and Ironhead show here ahead of Christmas Day, which, of course, is coming up on Friday. We will not have a show on Thursday as a result. In fact, the next couple of Thursdays we will be off with Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, but we'll be here again a week from today. Of course, over here is the Dear Goon, slimmed down. He is getting ready to compete tonight. A remarkable weight
What do you think, Ironhead?
Ahead. I tell you, the weight cutting is truly unreal.
Atkins.
I give you all kinds of credit getting down to fighting weight tonight for the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club live event. Goon, hats off to you. No, it's Chris Buchanani filling in for the Dear Goon. And Goon is off for the holidays.
Is it true Goon is not here because Kale was going to take him up on the offer and he's ducking him?
There are rumors to that effect. I am not going to confirm nor deny. We'll talk a little bit about the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club live event coming up tonight in just a bit. Also, we'll talk about the Penn State football season that was, what it might or might not mean for the program moving forward. The decision, obviously, to not play in a bowl game, and what that may or may not mean as well. Also, obviously, we will talk about the Steelers and the Eagles. The Steelers suddenly in a 3-game slide and really looking lost on offense right now, which is just incredible when you look at the injury problems have been on the defensive side of the ball. If there's an area where you'd think the Steelers would be struggling a bit right now, it would be with that linebacking core in particular, but on the defensive side of the ball, rest in peace, Kevin Green. We'll also touch on that. Speaking of linebackers, as the show unfolds today, and the NFC East still very much up in the air, shall we say, and it is going to be interesting to see what happens over the final couple of weeks. We are at Quaker Steak.
One word for it.
I was trying to be polite ahead of the holidays, trying to be good for the kiddos that may be tuned in out there. Quaker Steak and Lube still open for carry-out before restarting full dining service on Monday, January 3rd. Boy, am I looking forward to that. Full menu and to-go cocktails, though, still available until 8 o'clock. Here throughout the week. You can call 814-237-5823 to get 20% off of your order if you mention the Goon and Ironhead show. That's 814-237-5823. Mention the Goon and Ironhead show and 20%. They were talking earlier about taking a fifth of the cost off of your order, but they settled on 20%.
That's still a good deal, though. That's a good deal.
It's still a pretty good deal. Wings, by the way, reheat easily. If you didn't make yourself aware of that, you ought to avail yourself. The wings do reheat very easily if you're looking to stock up today ahead of the Christmas holiday and all of the good times that the weekend hopefully will bring for you and your family. Delivery is also available through DoorDash and Uber Eats here from Quaker Steak and Lube.
Should also mention that gift cards make great gifts. It's not just a catchy name.
Facts are facts.
And I'm putting my money where my mouth is, by the way. I've already purchased some Quaker Steak and Lube gift cards right here from the State College location to give as gifts.
We got into a great debate. This is years ago now on the morning show. Since then, I think we've won a lot of people over, but we had a pretty spirited debate ahead of Christmas. I want to say this was probably 7 or 8 years ago on our morning show. And the debate was whether or not gift cards are a proper or good way of showing love and whatever for family members or good friends. And my contention has been, and I think many now have won, we have won folks over to our side, that yes, that is perfectly acceptable, especially if it is something that the user, the receiver of the gift, enjoys. And if you know anybody who doesn't enjoy Quaker Steak and Lube and the fine food here, if they don't enjoy that, you really need to look at yourself in the mirror and figure out why you would be friends with such a despicable human being.
Do you know why? Do you know what they're a much better gift than, Ironhead? I'm maybe going to get us in trouble here. I'm going to lose our Pennsylvania lottery sponsorship in the future. But for years, they've been running that Pennsylvania lottery, give lottery tickets as a gift commercial like for so long.
It all depends. If it's a winning ticket, that's a great gift.
Well, that's precisely my point. So they're running this commercial that they've been running for so long that they're almost the entire thing. Watch it when you see it on TV. If you're watching in Pennsylvania, there's a scene where they cut to the ticket that's being pulled out of the envelope and given, and that's filmed every year to show the new promotion they're running that year. So that one scene is in HD. So the rest of it looks like, the old NFL broadcast from like 1985 analog, and then it just cuts to like crystal clear HD for 2 seconds, and then back to the old grainy 4x4 format, right?
And the fact that they're talking about looking forward to the MASH finale is a giveaway.
Exactly.
This has been running a while.
Exactly. I've had the morbid thought this season that probably everyone in that commercial is dead now. But I always thought about what a terrible gift, because either way,
what a legacy they've left behind.
The 5 cash 5s lady, I think, is maybe still hanging on. But it cuts both ways, because if you give somebody a worthless lottery ticket, right? Like the odds are you gave them a worthless slip of paper, right? True. But if it is somebody you are gifting a lottery ticket to, it's somebody you don't care about that much, right? They show you giving him to your newsstand guy, by the way, the day to come. Give a lottery ticket to your favorite newsstand guy, Pennsylvania lottery ticket, your mailman, whatever. So can you imagine you go all out to try to give the best gift you can possibly afford to your spouse, to your kids, your parents, those who are closest to you, and then you give the mailman like $100,000. Just look, I'm not saying don't support the interests of older Pennsylvanians by buying Pennsylvania lottery tickets. Don't give them as gifts.
What do you have against the elderly?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to harm the elderly in our fine community? How's that for your Christmas spirit to get the show started? Penn State football beating Illinois. The first quarter, I mean, obviously not the cleanest, most spectacularly
you might say that.
Played quarter, but it was entertaining. I got to tell you, as a fan, I'm like, you know what? I mean, I'm not happy that it's 21-21. I'm not happy that Penn State isn't taking more control, but man, this is just kind of fun to watch. I'm kind of just wanting to see what happens next.
You're watching a game on the 19th of December, right?
Yeah.
Just roll with it.
Well, and coming off of finals week, I will give myself a little pat on the back because, it's rare when a prognostication of mine comes true. And but pretty much, I said I thought the first half would be pretty sloppy. I wasn't necessarily expecting the 21-21 fireworks in that first quarter.
You didn't think the over would hit halfway through the first quarter?
But I was not surprised. Yeah, that was, I mean, it really was amazing. But I thought that it would not be a sharply played game in the first half. But I did think Penn State would then seize control in the second half. And that part did pretty much play out as I anticipated. And again, I only pointed out because it's about once a season usually that I get a prediction pretty much right, and I pretty much got this one right. So I'm going to point it out, and I'm not going to point out what happened the first 5 weeks of the season when I got the general gist of the game completely wrong, including the winner in all but one.
I don't know about you, Ironhead. I may never pick Penn State to win a game again.
I hear you.
I think we're both undefeated, right? Since
yes,
we finally just gave up.
Yep. That's the
undefeated
way to go.
and being defeated.
And listen, I think there's a lot of things. This past season, on one hand, I think you just throw out, and I think, I mean, completely across the board, I just think in terms of trying to figure out any significance other than the fact that you were able to see some sports and college football this season. But I do think there are a couple of significant things that played out down the stretch here for Penn State that I think will translate to next season. And one of those is the fact that they did, close it out with 4 consecutive wins. And I'm just telling you, we've seen many, many teams in many, many sports over the years that when you get off to an 0-5 start in anything, but especially college football, right? And you have guys that are as talented as some of the guys on Penn State's roster are. you can see guys, listen, I'm just going to try to pad my stats the rest of the way. I'm just going to try to take care of me. I'm going to opt out here just altogether these days. I'm going to get into the transfer portal and see if I can get into a better situation. I mean, all of those things are options. And I do think, for as much criticism as some have levied at James Franklin and the coaching staff, the fact that they and the players deserve credit, obviously, as well, for hanging in there together and being able to turn this around. That is not an easy thing to do when everything is going against you, when there is some open discussion about concerns within the locker room. And obviously just having the results. I mean, it's frustrating when you put work into anything and you don't get the results that you're looking for, and it can be very discouraging, and it can be pretty easy to take that discouragement and turn it into unproductivity and into this team's credit. And I think, again, the players and coaches individual credit that they were able to respond and I don't think there's any question, played their best football over the final couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, and not for nothing. Look, I understand this is a historically bad Michigan team. I get it.
Yep.
Ironhead, you and I have watched a lot of good Penn State football teams lose in Ann Arbor. To me, I think maybe still the highlight of the season was starting that 4-game winning streak by beating the Wolverines in the Big House. Because anytime you can do that, anytime you can do it, I don't care whether they're good or not. It's meaningful. Just like I was talking with my wife the other day about the Adam Talaferro game where he led the team out of the tunnel.
Yep.
And then Miami came in here and whacked us.
Yep.
Like that was a pretty mediocre Penn State team. And that was one of the greatest teams in college football history on the other side. But you knew to Miami, it still meant something that they came up to Penn State and put it to us in Beaver Stadium. So only the fourth time in our history to win up there, that was a pretty nice way to swing the momentum of 2020.
No question. And there's been a lot of discussion, at least in my circle of friends, about the decision to not play in a bowl game. And there's a few things about it. From a fan's perspective, right? You wanted to see this team get back to 500 just because that's a cool thing, and you keep the streak going of not having a losing season. And completely understand that and on board and wanted that as well. But if you sit back and just think for a minute about what the players have been through, and listen, not having the I will never understand the decision by the governor why there couldn't be a waiver given to football teams where you have a stadium the size of Beaver Stadium to allow the families into the stadium to watch the game. That is absurd. It did nothing to prevent the spread of anything, and that's just absurd. But these kids were not able to go home over that 9-week stretch. Many of them haven't been home since the semester started back in August. Probably most, I don't know if all, but certainly most would fall into that category. And, this is later than you're used to. You're coming off a finals week and a football game. And it was not a season that went the way you wanted, even though, again, they finished obviously on a strong and an upbeat note. I think that it is more than understandable that they're like, listen, we don't want to go right into playing another game right away that really is inconsequential. One of the advantages usually of playing a bowl game is you get those extra weeks, multiple weeks of practice, and in particular for the younger guys, you're able to, all right, let's get a better look. Well, they're not getting any better look at the younger guys. They're going to prepare the way they would for a typical game week. And I just don't think in terms of the future of the program, the normal benefits you get with the bowl game are there. The other part of it is you're not getting the bowl experience if you're a player. Part of the joy of getting to that bowl game is the reward for the season. And getting to experience things with your teammates, going to various attractions at the host city, getting opportunities to interact with the other team and get to know some of their guys and coaches and have some of the interaction, the pep rally and stuff with the fans. None of that was going to occur.
Right.
So that the experience itself was not going to be an especially pleasurable one for the players this year. So, to me, it's completely understandable, and I'm more than okay with it. I think, today you don't go 9 straight weeks in college football. It doesn't happen.
Sure.
Without getting a bye week in there. And that happened with the additional stress of, the measures that had to be taken to try to prevent the spread of COVID. I just think physically, emotionally, mentally, these guys, the majority of them had to be ready to just check out for a bit. And again, I do not blame them even one little bit. Your thoughts, Mr. Buchanani?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not there, Ironhead. I'm probably somewhere in between the people who are really fired up and angry about it and where you are. I'm disappointed for sure. I will throw in a quick plug for the obligatory PSU podcast. My 2 co-hosts, Brandon Noble, who comes at it, I think, really well from the Letterman community's perspective and that of a former player and a guy who had was fortunate enough to have his career continue for about a decade in the NFL. And Kevin Horn, from a fan's perspective. Those 2 guys did a far better job than I can articulating all the reasons why you maybe should be disappointed that Penn State's not going to play this bowl game. And if you feel that way, it's okay. You're not a bad person. You don't deserve to be judged or shamed. And it doesn't mean you don't care about the players as people. But on the other hand, implicit in signing up to play college football is the playing of college football. And how many times over the years, Ironhead, have you heard the cliche in a sport that's full of them about you don't get to choose when the game ends for you. And once you're out of it, you would do anything to put the pads on one more time I've heard plenty of Letterman say over the years, they always talk about it as a brotherhood, how much they would give to go out on the field with their brothers one more time.
Yeah.
And frankly, for all the pissing and moaning we heard when the Big Ten announced the season's cancellation about how badly everybody wanted to play. I mean, for as much as I don't love Penn State's decision not to play in a bowl game, it blows my mind that the Nebraska players who were ready to file lawsuits 3 months ago, like first they want to sue to get on the field. Now they can't quit and get off of it fast enough. To me, like your point about it's only one more week, it's like, yeah, exactly. It's only one more week. And it's not like you're being sent off to Camp Lejeune here or to Normandy, right? Like I understand it's a little different than the normal college football. I understand you've had to go through, a bunch of crap, a bunch of inconvenience, which again, 4 months ago, you were screaming to the rest to have the opportunity to do. Look, it's always echoed what Rip Engel told him about it's your season. It's a famous joke. The coach says, I'm getting paid. It's your team. It's your season. So it was their choice to make. I don't love that they made this choice. I don't love that they didn't care to try to get back to 500 at all, frankly. And again, if you agree or you're even angrier about it than I am, I'm not going to judge it. And if anybody wants to give you flack about it on Twitter, tell them to go pound sand and have a Coke and a smile.
Yeah, well, that's one of the about this country, quite frankly, is you can have widely varying opinions, and it's okay. They're opinions, so there's not necessarily a right or a the one thing I to that point in terms of you only get so many opportunities, and I think it's a good one, and I think there are a lot of people that I would go through whatever I needed to go through to create that opportunity. I do think it's a little different, and I think even from a player's perspective, and listen, this is all guesswork on all of our parts, right? I mean, I was never good enough to I tried walking out of Penn State and got told specifically, you're not good enough to be a Division I college football player, which I kind of instinctively had an idea about. So, from one, it's hard to really put yourself in their shoes. I just think even the players, it was probably impossible for them to envision everything that they were going to be going through.
Sure.
I do wonder how much, and there's two things I wonder about. One is, what was the discussion like in the locker room? Was this like 95% of the players were like, listen, we're out? Or was it like 51% of the players and it was a real close vote? And, they're like, if the majority, I don't know. And I don't necessarily need to know, but I just for curiosity's sake, I wonder about what the discussion is like in the locker room and how impassioned either way various players were. You have to believe that there was some are miffed, right, about not having the opportunity to play in the bowl game. I mean, you have a locker room of 100 plus players. There are definitely going to be some that are like, listen, I'm out no matter what, and some that were, let's go with 9 of us if it takes. And you know what?
There may be some who are okay with it, who 6 months from now or 10 years from now are going to look back and think, man, I should have played that game.
Well, and it may be that that if you had asked them 2.5 months ago, are you definitely going to want to play in a bowl game no matter what? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And now, the other part that I am wondering about is coming off of finals week. And say what you want. I know, every year I talk about because it's one of the arguments that is used against expanding the college football playoffs is, my God, you can't ask college football players to actually go through finals week and then play a meaningful game,
right?
Which is what we just. So you actually can do that, and we've now proven that. And it always has cracked me up over the years because women's volleyball and Penn State has won national titles every year. The Final Four and the national championship, it is finals week for that program every year.
Right.
And it just cracks me. Well, no, women's volleyball players can do it, but no, not the dumb football players. We couldn't ask them to play. Well, yeah, you could, and you just did. That being said, they are not used to that, right? I mean, that is not what the normal. And again, it's one of those things that I think until you go through it, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what all. I don't know how that week played out leading up to the Illinois game. I mean, we know that there was some shuffling and that there were days where they didn't get the team all together for practices. I don't know how that. I just don't know. I don't know how that wears on you psychologically, mentally. I don't know if as a college kid it's like, oh no, it's not a big deal. That had nothing to do with it. We just wanted to get home and be with our family. Or yeah, you know what? After the 8-week grind that we went through, then having finals week and an additional game, it's
the mayonnaise bowl. To hell with it. Yeah, that's fair. And to back up your point, Ironhead, I don't want to hear anybody, laughing behind their sleeve about, oh, hardy har, the academic hardships of these players. Like, look, I understand there are plenty of guys on Penn State's and every college football team that slough off their academics and don't take it that seriously. Well, here's for you. That separates them from the rest of the undergraduate student body? Not at all.
Right.
Like, there is a section, a portion, and it is nowhere approaching the majority of the undergrad population at Penn State that really buckles down and really takes their academic career first and foremost while they're here. Then there's another larger percentage who balance the social and the classroom.
We like all those communications majors.
Yes.
Those of you touch home.
And then there are a lot who by speaking from personal experience, and that's exactly the same on the football team.
Why are they holding that mirror up in front of me? What's
precisely.
that about? I mean, I do look good. I get it. I see what you're. Okay.
Oh yeah. And the only difference is that if you are a student athlete at Penn State, this percentage-wise, this is just math, you are more likely to graduate with your degree and do so on time or early from your time of enrollment than an average member of the student population. Yeah. So don't laugh off when you hear finals and classwork and the academic stuff, because 100%, there are some guys skating by the skin of their teeth just like the rest of their non-scholarship athlete peers. Plenty of them, or not. Probably far higher percentage at Penn State than a lot of the other big Power 5 football schools across the country. So that's the thing. By the way, that's Goon's comment. If anybody sees on the screen there,
I can't see it from here.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm telling you, the audience can read it. I can't see it, so I don't know. I'm getting old. My eyesight's going.
I will say a couple of things just about the season as a whole as well. The fact that the opportunity to play, I do think is significant. I do think that is, that they had the opportunity to go out and play those games. And the Penn State, and listen, a big deal, I think is rightfully being made that they played 9 games, but I do think it is fair to point out, because one of only 2 Big Ten teams, but part of that is luck, right? I mean, not
every team missed a game because of something they did.
Right. A lot of those teams had a game or two called for absolutely nothing that was in their control. And, part of it for Penn State was, the good luck that the teams they were playing didn't have. So again, Penn State
bad luck
credit
in some cases.
Well, true enough. Yeah. If only Ohio State had. Well, anyways,
Maryland, so. Yes, their season went off the rails with the COVID. Exactly. Immediately after embarrassing us in Beaver Stadium.
Yeah, true enough. So, but the other part that is just interesting / amazing to me is the fact that and all programs faced unique, challenging circumstances this year, right? Not every program faced the same unique, challenging circumstances, but every program faced situations that have never been faced before in college football programs. Is it not amazing? Because we talk about college football and sports in general, right? A large part of it is, in terms of success, being successful is your ability to adapt and adjust to adversity, whether it's a fumble, whether it's injuries, whether, long-term, short-term, within the game, over the course of the season, all of that. It's okay. How well can you adapt? And I find it amazing. And again, I'm speaking just for me, I'm willing to give Penn State a pass on this season with everything that went down, and especially with having the new coordinators and everything. That being said, is it not remarkable that at the end of the year, we have Alabama, we have Clemson, we have Notre Dame, we have Ohio State, 4 programs that since the BCS has begun have been consistently, Alabama and Clemson are there, it seems like, every year, virtually, and Ohio State just about. When it's all said and done, it's those programs were able to make the adjustments and were able to do the things they needed to do to be successful. Well, as they always do.
They have such an advantage in coaching, especially for Alabama and Clemson, and a stockpile of talent, that their margin of error was way wider. So, to be fair, very clear this year, 2 things. If you had any doubt that the playoff system, which is still far superior to the BCS in my mind, anybody saying go back to the BCS, like go back to whatever cave you crawled out of with Jake. The one thing with the playoff system we have right now is that we have got a point where most of the season is window dressing for Alabama and Clemson to play each other for the title. So that's number one.
Yep.
And number 2 is that the group of 5 conferences are not participants in that system in anything but on paper. That's it.
Very true.
So, yes, Alabama and Clemson playoffs, no matter what. But, man, those programs all had quite a bit of stability coming into this season.
No question.
You hit on it, Ironhead. I don't know of any other team in the top 15 for sure. And then after that, who cares? When you're talking about a team that was supposed to have a great season, that had a bigger disadvantage in terms of disruption of continuity and stability than Penn State did, simply because they had to replace 4 position coaches, one of whom was a coordinator, and 3 of them came in, the other 3 position coaches, defensive line, wide receiver, offensive line. What were the 3 position groups that were the biggest question marks heading into the year? And then Kirk Shiraka is the quarterback's coach. And where did we have problems all season long? Yeah. So I don't think for a second there wasn't a huge amount of disruption and disadvantage for Penn State. Having to first go through the Big Ten circus of we're not going to play, we're going to play, quick, bring all your kids back, have 3 weeks of practices in masks, and make sure nobody catches COVID-19, and then go, and you're installing a new offense, and you're teaching new techniques, and you're adjusting to new coaches, and they're adjusting to new personnel, and all you've had all off-season long is Zoom. I'm not trying to make excuses, but you do have to accept that that's a rational explanation for maybe going into next year thinking what we saw at the start of 2020 was just a statistical outlier, and you take it during a fake year as opposed to one you're going to take seriously.
Yeah, and again, we'll see obviously how it plays out, and next year now is going to be the the next telltale sign of where the program is and what it's doing.
Kind of open up in Madison too.
And I'll tell you, it's there's going to be. I'm really curious to see what people say. And listen, part of this is going to be we don't know right now who all is coming back, who all isn't coming back, who Penn State may get right out of the transfer portal, which is not going to be insignificant in the upcoming season. Because I really do think that Penn State is probably a couple players away from being able to contend. Now, a lot of things have to happen and a lot of improvement has to occur. But, I don't think they're far away talent-wise. The question for me, the biggest question for me going into next year is will they can they get good enough quarterback play to get into true contention for, a Big Ten title and an opportunity at the college football playoffs. And that's not to say that there aren't other questions, that's the only question mark. But that to me is the biggest question going into 2021 is can they get good enough play out of that quarterback spot? And I don't think they need Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields type play, but they certainly need better, more consistent play than they got this season by a good bit in order to I think get themselves into true contention for a Big Ten title and an opportunity. But, outside of Ohio State, do you go into next season looking at anybody else in the Big Ten? And again, Ironhead, how is that different than any other year? But, really, I think Penn State, and very given the record here with James Franklin against Ohio State, in terms of at least being very competitive, better than anybody else has been over the last 5 years. But, I don't think there's anybody else in the conference that you're looking at going into next year saying, Penn State isn't going to be able to match up with that team. It doesn't mean I think they're going to win all of those games, but I think they're certainly capable. Again, as we sit here now knowing what we know, which isn't a whole lot, it feels like Penn State is positioned to at least be competitive with everybody in the Big Ten going into next year.
Well, yeah, not to look too far ahead, but you're going to get to measure yourselves, like I said, against maybe one of the other teams that's going to compete for second place to Ohio State in Wisconsin. And then 2 weeks later, you get a home matchup against a top brand school. You might be coaching Auburn by the time they come here next season.
Yeah,
Ironhead. I think they're going to circle around and start asking PSAC coaches if they want to come down and coach in the SEC. That is unbelievable, isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
If you don't know what we're talking about, they have now offered the job to a Sun Belt coach, Louisiana, and
again,
a Conference USA
Auburn
guy.
I get that you're in a really good conference and you're in the same state with the best team. It's kind of like, trying to be build a Big Ten program in Ohio right now.
Yeah, sure.
I get it, but there is a lot of history, right?
It's Auburn.
Recent history.
It's
this
Auburn.
Is one of the outside of those, top 4 or 5 programs, right? I mean, Auburn is one of those right in that next group that you would say is, and I don't know if it's the passion is working against them with what happened with Gus Malzahn, but
I wonder,
I cannot believe that, people aren't, give me an opportunity. I want to crack at this anyway.
I mean, it's insane that Auburn, with all its resources and the money they can throw to coaching candidate and the brand and the history and everything, they went to the coach of Louisiana Lafayette and he was like, nah, I'm good.
Forget it.
Yeah. Alabama, Birmingham. Nope, I'm good, guys. It's like when that scene in Major League when they call Lou Brown and offer him the Cleveland Indians managerial job.
Yeah.
Well, I got a guy on the other line about some white walls. Lou Brown might be managing the Auburn Tigers next year, and that actor's been for years.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me, and it's surprising to me also, or maybe not, when you think about the SEC fan base cutting both ways. But this is the second time in 3 years that we have seen a lunatic fan base from a historic blue blood SEC program drive off legitimate coaching candidates. Tennessee was a complete circus, and I still don't think Auburn has reached quite that level, but it's trending in that direction.
Yeah.
And now once again, you're seeing it with Auburn. And like you said, even if you're afraid to play Alabama and you understand you're maybe never going to get over on those guys. LSU is a mess, right? Nick Saban's not going to coach forever. And you can do very, very well for yourself just playing in a New Year's Six bowl every year, right? Well, win 9 or 10 games at an SEC school and life's good. And instead you're going to stick at Louisiana Lafayette. Amazing.
The fact
it's amazing.
For me, and listen, I'm never going to be in that position. I get it, but for me, I mean, you're looking at the money. If
have your agent place a couple phone calls, Ironhead. Don't sell yourself short.
You take the job, you go 0-11, and you get fired after one season, and you're going to have to figure out how to live off of the whatever is going to be
you're Charlie
$20 million that you're going to have.
You're chilling at home,
away.
cashing a check from some athletic department. The guy suckered in.
Failure is a relative term at that point in my eyes. So that alone, but you just like the competitive instincts would, I don't know. It is amazing to me to watch the way that is unfolding to this point. We'll take a timeout here. When we come back, we will talk a little bit about the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club's Rockfin event coming up this evening. There are 2 cards on the docket for this evening. At 5:30, there will be basically an elongated dual meet between Penn State and North Carolina State. 17 bouts between those 2 collegiate programs, all freestyle wrestling, by the way. I've had a couple people reach out and ask if this was going to be basically a college wrestling match. No, it's freestyle wrestling. And then the main card has 11 bouts and some really intriguing, really good matchups. And we'll talk about that as well as the Steelers and the Eagles and a little bit about Kevin Green too, because my heart broke when I saw the news,
I love that guy
last night.
Thanks.
He really was one of those guys that just resonated with football fans, with his passion and with how good of a person he was off the field as well. So we'll talk about it as we continue with the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show.
Lion Country Kia is offering exceptional deals on your new Kia during Kia's Command the Season event.
We have a nice selection on the 2021 Kia Sportage with various options and prices as low as $26,800, saving you $3,000. Or if you demand big power and towing capacity, slip into one of the 2021 Kia Sorentos available on our lot, starting at $32,680.
Discover why Kia drivers throughout the area come to Lion Country Kia or visit online at lioncountrykia.com.
Introducing the new dusted Ghost Pepper at Quaker Steak and Lube. 11,700 SHUs of fire dusted on award-winning wings. Try it, or are you afraid of the heat?
Who wants to turn $20 into $500? Support our local restaurants this holiday season. Eat in or dine out, from French fries to lobster. Bring us your receipt and we'll take $500 off your final price. Here's how simple this is. Bring us a receipt, Buy a car from us in the month of December, and we'll take $500 off your final price. Merry Christmas from Blaze Alexander Hyundai Mazda. Support your local restaurants and servers. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.
And we welcome you back in here to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Chris Buchanani filling in for Goon on this Tuesday afternoon. Again, no show on Thursday with Christmas Eve, so we will be back a week from today. Kevin Green, we touched on before we went into break, but just real quick, there's just certain players that you just gravitate toward as fans. And Kevin Green made obviously a tremendous impact with the Steelers, was just a sack machine during his time with the Steelers, and for that matter, throughout his NFL career. But he was one of those guys that just he had that rebellious feel to him, that rebellious spirit, but was such a community-oriented guy, and you just can't find anybody who came in contact with him. And listen, I never had a chance in person or anything like that. But boy, everything, he was just one of those guys that was easy to root for. And again, just with his personality, I think kind of pulled you in as a fan. And, it's amazing how perspectives change over the years, but 58 has always, and that has always been too young for anybody to be passing away at that young age. I don't know. It hit hard last. Just very, very sad news out of the NFL yesterday.
Well, they talk about how difficult it is for NFL players to market themselves because they wear the gear and they wear the face masks and you can't see their face. And so it's a bigger challenge for a professional athlete in the NFL to market themselves individually than in, like baseball or the NBA or whatever.
Yeah.
And Kevin Green was remarkable in the way his personality just sprung off the field, right? You never had any difficulty, whether it was the hair or just the post-game interviews or whatever. The thing that I think really deserves to be mentioned about him was, of course, everything he did in Pittsburgh back in the Blitzburg era, but I paid a lot of attention, probably as you did too, to the early expansion years of the Carolina Panthers, because Kerry Collins went there and was their cornerstone pick at the quarterback spot, and they did what was at the time a really remarkable thing. Now, as a franchise, expansion franchise, they and Jacksonville got sweetheart deals. No other expansion team has, but they were within 3 years of entering the league in the NFC Championship game, and I think about what the obvious impact of bringing Kevin Green into that locker room and elevating the culture immediately.
No question.
He was such a big guy on and off the field. And that was a really cool story here in Happy Valley for Kerry Collins to be playing in the NFC Championship game. So I really followed that team closely. And I already knew and liked Kevin Green, and I think I liked him even more by the end of that run in Carolina.
Yeah, no question. And that's, again, rest in peace, Kevin Green, and thanks as a football fan and a Steelers fan for the wonderful memories. And that Carolina run was something very special to behold at the time for those of us that were passionately following and rooting for Kerry Collins as well. Couple of things, the Steelers, I'm bewildered as a Steelers fan.
I thought you were maybe going to keep pushing it back to the end of the show. So we have 30 seconds left. Steelers lost to the Bengals. We'll see you next week.
But listen, the Redskins game really didn't bother me that much. I'm like, okay. Eventually you're likely to lose one. I'd just soon you lose it now and then regroup. And again, I thought that Bills game was going to be an opportunity to really get back on track. And then you lose that one. It's like, well, that's a really good Buffalo team. It was the third game in 12 days. I'm still on board, excusing it. Now you have the full week and a day to get ready and get yourself together for a team that is clearly inferior with a struggling quarterback situation. And I really was, like all of the experts going into that game last night, expecting Pittsburgh to just manhandle Cincinnati. And the disconcerting thing to me, all
season long, I've been saying the thing that I'm excited about is that this offense hasn't put it all together yet, but I think it will. And when it does, look out. Well, we're getting pretty late in the game, and it feels like they are regressing. And it really is a mystery to me, because you could excuse it defensively for a decline, and you're really not seeing, it was a great game plan. I mean, it really was by the Bengals last night. You could argue probably the only game plan that would give them a chance offensively, but I mean, it was a smart, well-executed game plan. I still think that Steelers defense, especially given all of the injuries, is playing at a remarkably high level. But the offense, which isn't decimated by injuries, it looks like, but it is confounding at this point, because Ben is missing open receivers way too often, way too open. Obviously, they've had problems with the drop passes. I didn't think that was an especially big issue last night. But the fact that they cannot get the running game going, with or without James Conner, obviously, again, without Conner last night, and I do think that affects it. But, even when he was in there last week and even earlier in the season, it's not like it was a well-oiled machine. But the perplexing thing to me is, again, it feels like all of the parts are there, right? I mean, it feels like that it's a receiving core that is remarkable. In terms of the talent and the ability. You have a very experienced quarterback, a very good quarterback. You have a very experienced, very good offensive line. And again, the running backs are all good prospects, at least coming out, and have had, Jalen Samuels has been a productive back when he's been in there. Obviously, James Conner a couple of years ago was remarkably successful. And for whatever reason, it feels like they are just missing. And part of me wants to say, okay, they'll be able to put it together. But again, folks, we've got 2 games left in the regular season. When exactly is this going to come together? Now that it will, but I'm really bad. For the Steelers.
Well, so we get to the issues with the offense. It looked to me last night, I talked to a couple friends this morning, a couple of whom are Pittsburgh fans, one who's a Bills fan and is getting increasingly excited about this season.
I can understand that.
And I asked them all the same question. I said, did it look like Cincinnati was the more consistently physical team?
Last night? By far.
And,
I mean, not even close.
Yeah, and that was my takeaway. Everybody agreed with me. And still I find myself here questioning it, because it just seems so crazy that was the case, that this 2-10-1 football team that should have been ready to pack it in and hoping and praying that they could improve their draft stock with the New York Jets all of a sudden heating up.
Yeah.
Instead, they pushed Pittsburgh around.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say about that.
Well, and they were the more passionate team, right?
Yeah.
From early on. I mean, that you could see they were wanting to send a message. And, I don't have a problem with the Juju Smith-Schuster antics myself, but I will say you leave yourself open. When you don't participate in antics like that, then it's just football. When you participate, you make yourself a target. And again, he's had a successful season, and if you're willing to do that, but man, it looks bad then when you do that. And you have that he did, and you take the licks, and the one in particular, obviously in the first half that he took last night stands out. But it just, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, no question, Cincinnati was the more passionate. I mean, to use the cliche, they wanted it more or less. And that seemed obvious watching it through the TV screen. The one thing I wonder about, and I don't know, and I'm not close enough, and I don't have any contacts anymore that I'm in touch with on a regular basis. There was a time where I was talking to people who were following the Steelers in the media regularly, and I'd be talking to them about what I was wondering about as I watched that game. And again, I have no idea, and I'm not making any accusations. I'm genuinely wondering whether or not. Because to me, what I was hoping they did, and they may very well have done it, and maybe it's even I'm tied up with some other things, so I have not even been following the Steelers media sites as closely as I normally do over this last 4 or 5 days. To me, given what had happened previously, like I think that the old school instincts would be, all right, we're going to work these guys and we're going to grind them and make sure that they're ready to go. And it felt like that's what happened, that looked like still a tired football team to me and a beat up team. And I wonder if they're, if in practices that they're, because to me, what they need right now last week was take a couple of days off. I mean, just take them off and regroup, get yourself together. And they may very well have done that. Again, I genuinely have no idea how that was handled this past week. But that to me is what they needed. And it looked like this was a team that was still just physically and mentally exhausted. So, the problem is now they're not going to get that bye week, which I think would have, I think it's going to be helpful to any team, but I think this team, especially with the way this season has played out, would have been very beneficial. And now, you're still in a fight for the division title right now. And it may come down to that final game. And that's not where you want to be, right? And it's not where you even thought it was a possibility 3 weeks ago.
You got a lot of pressure playing the Colts next week.
And that's a
really – they're playing the Jets.
Yeah.
So I know the Jets beat the Rams, but I think Adam Gase would get fired in week 17 if they win in week 16. Right?
Yes.
Like they would have hung with him the whole time. And it's like 2 wins in a row, Adam. I'm sorry. We got to let you go.
This
idiot.
Is
unacceptable. Yeah. So the Browns are going to win next week. So you got to win that game against Indy.
Yeah, and that's a Colts team that's going to be very hungry and is playing some very good football right now. And, so it – I wouldn't say panic. You go back to the Aaron Rodgers and I relax. But boy, it does feel like there better be a sense of urgency. And, I think this is a really important week for Mike Tomlin to manage his team properly. Because it's a largely veteran team. So, I get that it's a young receiving core. I mean, there's some spots, and obviously you have some youth right now that's playing in the linebacking core. But, it's largely a veteran team, and it feels like it's a team, to me, that just needs I think rest is more important than anything else in terms of this upcoming week. Getting yourself mentally prepared for the Colts more than anything else. And, again, that's a very amateur perspective on my part. But, boy, it feels like this is a team that needs to somehow get some passion going again and be able to just recoup mentally and regroup or recoup physically and regroup mentally before these final couple of games, both very important games in the regular season.
So let's go to the elephant in the room then. Let's talk about the offense and let's talk about the veteran status of this team. Again, I am nothing more than a casual observer of this year's Steelers team. So it's not like I'm sitting and watching guys, but just from turning on the TV and paying halfway's attention, it looks to me over the course of the year that schematically the offense has become limited to accommodate Ben Roethlisberger's limitations with the way he's able to play right now. So number one, he is clearly, even to somebody who's just kind of looking from afar and not looking that closely, he is not the quarterback he was, for sure. He's absolutely limited. And the one thing I have always been impressed with most about Roethlisberger is how difficult he is to bring down. How many times you think the pass rush has that guy dead to rights and he completes the pass. Last night, that happened plenty of times. He avoided lots of sacks that it looked like he was about to take, but the ball wasn't in the same zip code of the intended receiver. And like you said, a lot of those guys were open. He theoretically could have gotten it there. And just looks like he has gone from maybe a half step slow to a full step slower, and that's inhibiting the entire offense. The whole offense is built around that guy.
No, there's no question.
He might be the hole in the donut now.
I mean, he's been off now. Is it possible he regroups himself and gets it together and has a terrific finish for sure? But yeah, he's just missing too often when the play is there. And like you said, even And he did do a good job of extending some plays, but there were a lot of plays, especially early in that game, that were there without him needing. I mean, it was just, take steps back, the receivers open, just deliver the ball, and he delivered it, but inaccurately.
Yeah.
And that to me, is a concern, again, with just a couple of weeks left in the season, because really with that receiving core, you don't need to be, pinpoint accurate, right? I mean, for as many problems as Deontay Johnson has had with the routine plays, he has also made some spectacular catches. I mean, he has the athleticism. And listen, Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster both have consistently been able to make the great catches as well as the routine plays. So
and Johnson's hands were not an issue at all last night.
No, not last night. And so, we'll see. I don't think it's time if you're a Steelers fan to throw in the terrible towel, but I do think there's obviously now, for me, for the first time, real genuine concern. The Redskins and the Bills games, after both, I was able to, in my mind at least, excuse it and wash it away. And listen, they'll still finish up with a strong 3-game run. And it starts with a game that they should win and should win handily with Cincinnati. And then, what happened last night, I think now I'm very concerned as a Steelers fan about how this thing plays out. And listen, it's as we've been saying, it's a really important game coming up on Sunday at 1 against the Colts. And for the Eagles, I mean, they're still in a division that is I know the experts are saying on the computer models the Redskins are the favorite, but
please, I just want to be able to root for the draft pick with a clear conscience.
Is anybody going to be shocked if any of those 4 teams, though, win? I mean, even the Cowboys – I don't know.
I have just as good a shot as any.
It's ridiculous to me to watch the way this thing has played out this year.
It's awful. It's awful, Ironhead. And I can't I was kind of joking, but not really. I can't bring myself to root for the team to lose. On the other hand, there is no question that the best interests of the franchise are served by getting a pick in the top 10, if not the top 5. And I don't know how much utility you get out of getting smoked in a home playoff game because you won a division with a losing record. I don't know, man. It's one of these things where the logical side of my brain, my head says, just get the draft pick. But my heart said, you're in it. You got to play to win. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be very interesting, to say the least, what happens here over the final couple of weeks of that division and the NFL in general. I think it is still the America's game, the most followed sport by a good bit. It may be dissipating slightly with concerns over the concussions and all of the political stances and all of that, but it is still by far the most compelling sports for
it's been a fun season.
American
This has been one of the most
really
fun NFL seasons in a while.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of interesting storylines, right? As we had, I mean, the fact that we're going to have a playoffs without the Patriots is interesting for many of us, and joyous for many of us. But the fact that you have, a Steelers team that was, the only undefeated team through 11 weeks now has a 3-game losing skid. I mean, that's an interesting storyline. The Chiefs and now actually significant injury down the stretch is significant enough that it's causing anybody to think it's going to derail Kansas City's season in any way, shape, or form. But there are a lot of interesting storylines. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers is still an interesting storyline. Just a lot of them, I think this coming week with the Christmas Day game with the Vikings and the Saints. The Saints are now an interesting storyline with Drew Brees coming back and not looking all that good, but then, New Orleans being very much in that game against everybody's pick right now to win the Super Bowl. So it's going to be fun. I mean, and it always seems to be in the National Football League when you get to this time of the year. Did want to just real Rockfin will get underway at 5:30 Eastern time. David Taylor and I will be on the call for that. Basically, you have 17 bouts between collegiate wrestlers from Penn State versus North Carolina State to kick off the event. That'll be the first card, and then the main card gets underway at 8 o'clock. And some really intriguing matchups on both cards tonight. It'll all finish up with Zane Rutherford taking on a three-time world medalist, two-time bronze medalist and silver medalist at the World Championships, qualifying India for the Olympics in what would have been 2020 and now 2021. And it's an intriguing matchup because Rutherford wrestled back in January and lost a 5-4 decision. And Rutherford actually was ahead 3-3 over Bajrang Punia from India. It was 3-3. Rutherford had the criteria going into the final 30 seconds, and then Rutherford went on the attack, which is just his nature, trying to score more, and ended up giving up an exposure, 2-point exposure, then got the reversal to get a point back, but lost a heartbreaking 5-4 decision. But Punia right now is ranked number 2 in the world at their weight. They both compete at the same weight. So this will be a real big opportunity for that breakthrough victory on the world stage, which Rutherford has not been able to get to this point. Roman Bravo Young taking on the number 1 challenger in UFC, which is just kind of an interesting matchup. The fact that that is going to be there. And the most intriguing bout of the evening, unquestionably, Chris, is I think it's the third bout tonight on the main card, and we're going to have Santa Claus taking on the Grinch. And many are saying they think the Grinch is going to steal this one. I would not be so sure. Now, Santa has a lot of sumo wrestling in his background,
right.
So this is a little bit new in the freestyle circuit.
So this is like one of these like international waters deals.
But
there's no way those guys aren't separated by at least 3 weight classes.
Well, and listen, and the quickness that the Grinch has been practicing in Whoville versus the strength of Santa. Now the question is also, I mean, Santa, we're 3 days away from the big day for Santa. Is he going to be a little too distracted to focus on the training and properly get himself ready to go for the main event tonight? But looking forward to that. We'll see if Santa Claus can pull one out of the bag or if the Grinch can steal it tonight at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club live event 4. Oh, there's going to be a lot more puns along those lines as that one unfolds. So if you're looking to spend $9.99, you can do a lot worse. We're going to have a lot of fun with that event tonight. Rockfin.com, if you have not signed up, in all honesty, you're going to get 28 bouts. Tell me, 28 bouts, including some
crazy cards
matchups
they have been able to put together too. Like,
yeah, I really do.
Been able to coordinate all of this stuff. It's pretty impressive.
I do give, and obviously Cal has a lot of connections in the wrestling world. Not surprising, and he's cashing them in here to create these. But we really are getting to see wrestling at its highest level, and just some really intriguing matchups that you just would not normally get to see in freestyle wrestling. So it has been a lot of fun. They're looking to continue to do this, basically once a month, and looking forward to this one just a few days before Christmas. So if you get the chance, again, sign up. It's I believe it's $9.99 a month, rockfin.com, and you can go to the rockfin.com/NLWC page to check out the action tonight. Again, the undercard gets underway at 5:30. And then the main card will get underway at about 8 o'clock, expecting that we'll have about a 15 to 20-minute break between the two cards this evening. And just looking forward to it. A lot of fun. And hopefully we see some college wrestling coming up here within the next few weeks as well. And trying to make that occur as well. Any parting shots as we get we obviously wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. Hope everybody stays safe out there, and look forward to hopefully a much better 2021. We'll talk about a little bit of the year in review on next Tuesday's program as well, which will be our final show here before the new year.
That's a hell of a year to review.
Yes.
Are gonna
man,
maybe a little extra time for that one. Nope, I'll just echo everything you said. Always fun being here. Always fun, getting to talk Penn State with the audience far and wide. I have really, I have enjoyed the escape into the podcast, TV, coming in, filling in on this show. It has been a pleasure, truly, to interact with Nittany Nation as we've all through a crazy year and a crazy season together. And here, we made it. We're almost to the end of 2020. Have a great holiday season. That's all I got.
Yep. We thank you, and we'll talk to you again a week from today with our last show of the year. It's the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show.
Lion Country Kia is offering exceptional deals on your new Kia during Kia's Command the Season event.
We have a nice selection on the 2021 Kia Sportage with various options and prices as low as $26,800, saving you $3,000. Or if you demand big power and towing capacity, slip into one of the 2021 Kia Sorentos available on our lot, starting at $32,680.
Discover why Kia drivers throughout the area come to Lion Country Kia or visit online at lioncountrykia.com.
Introducing the new dusted Ghost Pepper at Quaker Steak and Lube. 11,700 SHUs of fire dusted on award-winning wings. Try it, or are you afraid of the heat?
Who wants to turn $20 into $500? Support our local restaurants this holiday season. Eat in or dine out, from French fries to lobster. Bring us your receipt and we'll take $500 off your final price. Here's how simple this is. Bring us a receipt, buy a car from us in the month of December, and we'll take $500 off your final price. Merry Christmas from Blaise Alexander Hyundai Mazda. Support your local restaurants and servers. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.